When one of the most famous men on the planet walked into a hospital emergency room at 2:47 in the morning and was told his mother would have to wait, nobody in that room could believe what they were seeing. It was Tuesday, September 3, 2019. Newark Beth Israel Medical Center. Newark, New Jersey. The same city where Shaquille O'Neal was born 47 years earlier. Shaq, 7 feet 1 inch tall, 325 pounds, had to turn sideways through the ER doors. He wore a black hoodie, gray sweatpants, white sneakers the size of small boats. His mother, Lucille O'Neal, 70 years old, was doubled over beside him, clutching her stomach, her face tight with pain she was trying very hard not to show. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. 23 people sat in blue plastic chairs bolted to the floor. A TV in the corner played the news with no sound. Someone coughed. The automatic doors opened and closed with a mechanical sigh. Shaq helped his mother to the check-in desk, one hand on her elbow. A nurse looked up from behind a computer monitor. Her name was Patricia Hennings, 38 years old, night shift supervisor, 14-hour shift behind her. She looked at Lucille, then at Shaq, her eyes moving from his shoes upward, then back at her screen. "Name," she said flatly. "Lucille O'Neal," Shaq said quietly. "She's having severe abdominal pain. It started 4 hours ago." Patricia typed without looking up. "Insurance card." Shaq handed it over. Patricia scanned it. Her expression changed. Something small and cold moved across her face. "Medicaid," she said. Not a question, a judgment. "Yes, ma'am," Shaq said. Patricia looked at Lucille again, then at the waiting room. "We're very busy tonight. You'll need to wait." But here's what nobody in that emergency room knew. 3 months earlier, a letter had been sent to the hospital's board of directors. A letter about Patricia Hennings. A letter that had been sitting in a file, waiting. And when everything came out, when every piece of this story connected, it would change that hospital forever. Stay with us through this entire story, because what the hospital director does when he finds out what happened, and the one thing Shaq's mother whispers to her son in that waiting room, will hit you somewhere you're not expecting. Music. The emergency room at Newark Beth Israel Medical Center on a Tuesday night in early September is not a quiet place. Gunshot wounds, overdoses, heart attacks, strokes, people who waited too long to come in, people who had nowhere else to go. Shaquille O'Neal sat in a blue plastic chair that was far too small for him. His knees were almost at his chest. His mother sat beside him, breathing carefully, her hand pressed against her abdomen. The pain was getting worse. He could see it in the way she held herself, the way her jaw was locked tight. "Mama," he said softly, "I can get you seen right now. One phone call." Lucille looked at him. "No. Mama, no." Her voice was firm. "We wait like everybody else. That woman at that desk doesn't know who you are, and I want to keep it that way. You understand me?" He understood. He'd been raised by this woman. He knew exactly what she meant. To understand why Lucille O'Neal said no, you have to go back. Past the championships, past the wealth, past the fame. You have to go back to Newark, New Jersey, 1972. Shaquille O'Neal was born March 6, 1972. His mother, Lucille, was 23 years old. His biological father was absent. His stepfather, Philip Harrison, was a U.S. Army sergeant who moved the family from base to base. Lucille worked 2 jobs. She cleaned houses during the day. She worked night shifts at a hospital cafeteria. She never complained, not once. She used to tell young Shaq, "You are not better than anybody because of what you have, and nobody is better than you because of what they have. Dignity is something you carry inside yourself. Nobody can give it to you, and nobody can take it away unless you let them." That lesson lived in Shaq his entire life. Patricia Hennings, 38 years old, had been working at Newark Beth Israel for 9 years. She lived in West Orange, New Jersey. She drove a silver Honda Accord with a crack in the windshield she couldn't afford to fix. She had a daughter, Emma, 11 years old, who played soccer. Patricia had been a good nurse once. Compassionate. But 2 years ago, her ex-husband stopped paying child support. The exhaustion set in, and somewhere in the middle of double shifts and maxed-out credit cards, something hardened inside her. She began seeing patients differently, not as people, as insurance codes, as threats to her workload. Nothing that could be proven in a hearing. Just a pattern. A pattern that Dr. Marcus Webb, the hospital director, had been documenting quietly, waiting for the moment when the truth would reveal itself completely. Dr. Webb was 52 years old, black, raised in Newark. He'd gone to Howard University, then Harvard Medical School. He'd returned to Newark specifically to serve the community he came from. He'd been watching Patricia Hennings very carefully. At 3:14 a.m., Lucille O'Neal's pain became unbearable. She made a small sound, something between a gasp and a cry. Shaq stood immediately. "I'm taking you back there," he said. "Shaquille." But he was already moving. He walked to the check-in desk. Patricia looked up. "Sir, you need to wait?" "My mother needs to be seen now," Shaq said. His voice was calm, steady. "She's been waiting 27 minutes. Her pain is getting worse." "Sir, as I told you, we're very busy." "There are 3 examination rooms empty right now," Shaq said quietly. "I can see them from here." Patricia's face hardened. "Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but you don't get to demand—" "I'm not demanding anything," Shaq said. "I'm asking you to help my mother." Patricia stood. "Your mother has Medicaid. We have patients with private insurance who have been waiting longer. She will be seen when it's her turn." The waiting room went silent. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums. An elderly man near the window stopped reading. A mother holding a sleeping toddler looked up. The security guard shifted his weight, watching. Shaq looked at Patricia Hennings for a long moment. His jaw was tight. His hands were completely still at his sides. Then he did something nobody expected. He pulled his hoodie down lower over his face. He turned around. He walked back across the waiting room floor, his footsteps slow and deliberate, and sat back down next to his mother in that tiny blue plastic chair. He took her hand, her small, trembling hand in his enormous one. Lucille looked at her son. Her eyes were wet, but not from the pain. She whispered, her voice barely audible, "That's my son." Those 3 words carried everything she'd ever tried to teach him, everything she'd worked 2 jobs to show him. That strength isn't about being loud. That dignity is what you do when no one's watching, that you don't fight every battle with your fists or your fame. Sometimes you fight by refusing to become what someone else expects you to be. Music. What happened next happened quietly. A security guard who'd been watching from the corner picked up his phone. He made a call. The call went to Dr. Marcus Webb's personal cell phone. Dr. Webb was at home, 14 minutes away. He answered on the second ring. The security guard, James Morrison, 61 years old, had worked at the hospital for 22 years. He'd seen things. He knew things. And he knew that what just happened at that check-in desk was exactly what Dr. Webb had been waiting to see with his own eyes. "Sir," James said, "you need to come in." Dr. Webb arrived at 3:41 a.m. He walked through the emergency room entrance in a gray suit, no tie, his ID badge clipped to his belt. He saw Shaq immediately. Impossible not to. But Dr. Webb's eyes went to Lucille first. He walked straight to her. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb. I'm the hospital director. Can you tell me what's happening?" Lucille looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, not from the pain, from something else entirely. "Abdominal pain," she said quietly. 4.5 hours now, right side." Dr. Webb nodded. He looked at Patricia Hennings behind the desk. "Get Dr. Ramirez. Examination room 3. Right now." Patricia stood frozen. "Right now," Dr. Webb repeated. Patricia moved. Dr. Ramirez examined Lucille. "Appendicitis. Early stage. Treatable. She was in surgery within 90 minutes. But wait. Here's where it gets even more incredible." While Lucille was in surgery, Dr. Webb sat with Shaq in the waiting room. That's when Shaq finally pulled his hood down. That's when Dr. Webb recognized him. "You didn't say anything," Dr. Webb said. "My mother didn't want me to," Shaq said. Dr. Webb nodded slowly. Then he said something Shaq would never forget. 3 months ago, we received a formal complaint about Patricia Hennings from a patient named Gloria Rodriguez. She's a housekeeper, Medicaid. She came in with chest pain. Patricia made her wait 4 hours. Turned out to be a heart attack. She survived, barely." Shaq listened. "I've been documenting everything since then," Dr. Webb continued. Tonight I have what I need. Patricia Hennings will be terminated, effective immediately, and I'm implementing a new protocol. Every patient, regardless of insurance, gets triaged by medical necessity only, no exceptions. That should have always been the rule, Shaq said. It should have, Dr. Webb agreed. But sometimes it takes something like tonight to force change. Music. This is what happened over the weeks that followed. On September 5th, Patricia Hennings was terminated. The hospital issued a formal apology to Lucille O'Neal and to every patient who had filed complaints. On September 12th, Shaq established the Lucille O'Neal Emergency Care Fund, $500,000 to ensure that no patient at Newark, Beth, Israel, would ever be turned away due to insurance status. The fund covered co-pays, medications, follow-up care. On October 1st, Dr. Webb implemented the new triage protocol hospital-wide. Wait times dropped. Patient satisfaction scores increased by 34%. On November 3rd, Gloria Rodriguez, the housekeeper whose complaint had started everything, met Lucille O'Neal at a hospital fundraiser. She was 56 years old, barely 5 feet tall, wearing her church dress. When someone pointed out Lucille across the room, Gloria walked over slowly, her hands shaking. "Mrs. O'Neal," she said quietly, in accented English. "I am Gloria. I was the one who—" She stopped. Her eyes filled. "I didn't know my letter would help someone else." Lucille took both of Gloria's hands. "You saved lives," she said. "You spoke up when it was hard. That takes courage." They embraced like sisters, like two women who understood what it meant to be invisible until someone decided to see them. Neither had known the other existed before that moment, but they would stay in touch for years. Gloria's daughter would later receive a scholarship from Shaq's foundation. That connection would change two families forever. But here's the part that will stay with you. The morning after the surgery, when Lucille was awake and stable, Shaq sat beside her hospital bed. The sun was coming through the window. Newark was waking up outside. "Mama," he said, "why didn't you let me say something earlier? Why did you want to wait?" Lucille looked at her son. "Because the moment you said your name, that woman would have treated me different. Not because I deserved it. Because of who you are, and that's not dignity, baby. That's fear. I didn't want her fear. I wanted her to do what was right because it was right." She paused. "Let that settle. You can't change people by scaring them. You change them by showing them what they're supposed to be." Outside Newark Beth Israel Medical Center, the autumn morning is bright and clear. The emergency room doors open and close. People arrive, people leave. The building stands, and inside, a new protocol is posted on every wall. A protocol that says every person who walks through those doors deserves care. Not because of who they are, because of what they are. Human. And that is the story of the night a nurse refused to treat Shaquille O'Neal's mother, and what happened next changed an entire hospital. Because somewhere out there right now, someone is sitting in an emergency room waiting. Someone is being judged by their insurance card instead of their pain. And a story like this one reminds us that change doesn't always come from the top down. Sometimes it comes from a 70-year-old woman who refuses to use her son's name to get what she deserves as a human being. So before you go, drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. We have people joining us from hospitals, from late-night shifts, from quiet rooms all over the world. Let us know you were here. And if this story moved you even a little, if it made you think about how we treat people when nobody's watching, please hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it helps stories like this reach people who need to hear them. And if you believe that dignity should never depend on fame or wealth or insurance status, subscribe to this channel. Join a community that believes every person matters, every single one. Share this video with someone who works in healthcare, someone who's been mistreated in a waiting room, someone who needs to remember that change is possible. Now click on the video appearing on your screen right now because the next story is just as powerful. We'll see you there.